Magic the Gathering players asked the question, is it worth it to buy a Sonic the Hedgehog Magic the Gathering Commander deck? Wait a minute, is this real? Did they make these? I don't think they made these. It happened again, folks. They gave us original card designs of characters Magic the Gathering players love, and then they decided not, I repeat not, to give us standalone Commander precons for them. Wizards of the Coast, this is what you should be doing with Universes Beyond cards. Making Commander decks around them so that many Magic the Gathering players can opt out if it's not their jam, but those players who do love these characters can then buy a Commander precon featuring said characters. All right, fine, I guess as always, I have to do everything myself. Well, you know what I mean. Presenting the lost Sonic the Hedgehog Commander precons, in which we have taken the relative value of reprints that you found in past Commander precons, like for Warhammer and Doctor Who and Fallout, and used that as our budget for building these lists. What's great is that the Sonic cards themselves aren't that expensive on the secondary market. And again, a great way to support your local game store, as well as cutting Wizards of the Coast out of the equation, is by buying singles. So check out our builds, their strategies, and designs. Honestly, building your own precon is a fun way to get what you want from a Magic product without technically having to buy a Magic product. Buying singles supports local game stores, and giving yourself deck building restrictions breeds creativity. Last month, we wanted to encourage building your own precon by having a contest with Architect, the best website on the internet for building deck lists and keeping your Magic collection up to date. The winners were the clever City of Immigrants deck, designed by DJ Dextros, and Electro's Megastorm by Bucky's Card Den. We've got both winning deck lists linked in this video's description, but Architect didn't want to stop there, and they've got another exciting Build Your Own Commander deck contest going on right now. Jump Scare! For this contest, Architect is actually giving out $250 in credit to buy singles for the winning deck list, as well as $150 and $100 respectively for second and third place. That's awesome. You're going to get credit to buy the cards you want for the Commander deck you designed, or just whatever singles you need. Sign up today by going to architect.com/Tolarian. And then get building with your own deck list submission, as well as just using Architect for all its amazing and helpful features for Magic the Gathering players. All you have to do to enter this month's contest is design an original Commander legal deck that should appear to do one thing, but be able to shift to do a completely different strategy. Ooh, jump scare! The full details are available by following the links in this video's description. And best of all, creating an account via architect.com/Tolarian is completely free. Thanks again to Architect for not only sponsoring this video, but running this awesome deck building contest. I love building my own Commander decks. Every single Build Your Own Precon list that we've ever done on this channel is listed up on Architect when you go to architect.com/Tolarian. And now we're adding to those lists with our Build Your Own Sonic decks. Let's check them out. First up, we have Gotta Go Fast, an aggressive Jeskai precon headlined by everyone's favorite, adventure-loving speedster, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is a 2/4 Hedgehog warrior with haste for 1 generic and 1 of each Jeskai mana. His titular ability is Gotta Go Fast. That's the name of the Commander deck we made. And whenever Sonic the Hedgehog attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with Flash or Haste. Secondarily, whenever a Flash or Haste creature gets dealt damage, you create a tapped treasure token. Notice this does not say once per turn, nor does it say 1 or more creatures. More on that in just a moment. Gotta Go Fast is a deck that hits hard and does not slow down once it gets rolling. Using a mixture of haste and flash creatures, you'll build out your board, and when the time is right, deploy Sonic and start growing your team every single time he attacks. If your opponents try to block your onslaught, they'll only be adding to your resources, gifting you treasures that you can use on a future turn. Of course, you can also deal your creatures damage on your own terms, with various ways of pinging your quick critters with non-lethal damage, generating treasures each time. Gotta Go Fast's creature suite breaks down into two categories: flash creatures, which usually provide some form of utility or interaction, and haste creatures, which tend to be aggressively slanted, intended for closing the door once you've built out your team. In the early game, you'll want to prioritize holding up flash creatures as much as you're able. Cast your spells on the end step of the player to your right, or in response to a relevant action taken by an opponent, such as casting Deep Gnome Terramancer when an opponent cracks an Evolving Wilds. Gotta Go Fast runs flash creatures all the way up the curve. Whether you have 1 mana or 6 at your disposal, there's a creature in the deck you can cast at instant speed. These creatures all fill different roles, from interaction to protection to card draw. One form of interaction available to you when you play a flash game plan is, of course, counter magic. Gotta Go Fast's counter magic comes strapped to creatures and can take different forms, going after anything and everything from spells to abilities, permanently or just temporarily. Once you're ready to bring the heat, it's time to stop holding up instant speed threats and start unleashing your speedsters. There are a few naturally hasty threats in the deck, but Gotta Go Fast also includes ways to bring your non-hasters up to speed. Perforos, Bronze-Blooded, Goro Goro, Disciple of Ryusi, and Frostcliff Siege each grant haste to your team, meaning everything, even creatures that don't naturally have flash or haste, will get the boost from Sonic's Gotta Go Fast ability. As if a board full of boosted creatures wasn't scary enough, Gotta Go Fast includes additional rewards for all these +1/+1 counters. Whether you're proliferating with Kylo, Apogee Mind, zapping people in the face with Thundering Raiju, or simply slipping past useless blockers with Herald of Secret Streams, your opponents will have a hard time surviving your ever-growing board of creatures. Of course, to keep growing your board wider in addition to taller, you'll need to draw a lot of cards throughout the mid-game. Bident of Thassa is a classic card draw engine for creature decks. Enduring Curiosity is a newer version of the same effect, but with the added bonus that this little cat glimmer happens to have flash, meaning it will grow along with the rest of your team when Sonic attacks. There's also the other mode of Frostcliff Siege, which you'll want to pick if you already have a haste granter in play. Okay, so everything we've covered so far is mostly focused on Sonic's first ability, but what about that second ability? We've got these flash creatures and hasters in play. How do we profit? Well, you can just let your opponent's blockers do that work for you, but there's a better way to guarantee that you'll have plenty of mana to work with in the late game. First, we've got a couple creatures that can ping your own guys one at a time. Cunning Spark Mage can only do this once per turn cycle, but since it also has haste itself, it will continue to grow alongside the rest of your squad on each Sonic attack. Niv Mizzet, on the other hand, will generate a treasure pretty much any time anyone casts an instant or sorcery, assuming you point his pings at your own guys. Remember how I said the treasure-making ability doesn't have a 1 or more clause? That means spells like Tremor and Fire Magic will generate you a tapped treasure for each hasty or flash creature you happen to control, and they'll clear away any of your opponent's 1 toughness creatures while they do. You can also do this over and over again. Caltrops makes a treasure whenever a hasty or flash creature attacks with Sonic in play. Pyrohemia makes a boatload of tapped treasures each time you pay red mana, though be careful you don't accidentally deal your creatures lethal damage. Certain creatures can be dealt damage forever without ever taking lethal, though. Hazoret the Fervent, for instance, may rarely get to attack or block in this deck, but she will happily give you treasures each time you point a point of damage at her. Brash Taunter won't give you treasures without one of those haste granters in play, but it will translate any pings it takes into damage pointed at an opponent's face. Along a similar vein of non-hasters that are still good ping targets, Gotta Go Fast contains a package of enraged creatures borrowed from the plane of Ixalan. All of these creatures hate to be zapped, and will provide you with a nice bonus each time it happens. And yes, if you have a haste granter in play, they'll give you treasures too. All of these treasures are great enough on their own, but why not get a little greedier? Zorn, Professional Facebreaker, and Academy Manufacturer all provide some additional boost to your treasure production at the 3 mana slot. Lastly, a couple of cards for the end game. When Sonic shifts into his highest gear, you might say he's going full throttle. Full Throttle and Ariella the War Leader both provide you with extra combats, which means extra combat triggers, which means an even bigger board attacking multiple times. And once Sonic's in his super state, this is happening. As our anthropomorphic hedgehog friend would say, every Commander game has its end. I know it's kinda sad, but that's why you gotta play Magic to the fullest. On the other side of this coin, we have Chaos Control, an interactive Rakdos deck helmed by Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow is a hasty 4/2 Hedgehog mercenary for 2 black and 2 red mana. Whenever he or another creature you control with Flash or Haste dies, you draw a card. On top of that, his titular ability, Chaos Control, gives your spells split second if you cast them using artifact mana. Though it has plenty of sacrifice shenanigans, Chaos Control is not your typical Aristocrats deck. It's better to think of it as a control deck with an Aristocrat sub-theme. See, you're not just sacrificing your own creatures in Chaos Control, you're also stealing your opponent's creatures to sacrifice, giving them haste in the process so that you draw cards when they die. Threaten effects are an iconic category of card in Magic. These cards steal opponents' stuff for a turn, give them haste so they can attack despite changing controllers, then give them back when the turn ends. Paired with sack outlets, they effectively function as removal spells on top of that. Because these threatens grant those creatures haste, any creature you steal and sacrifice will draw you a card. Just make sure you attack with them before you start sacking. The best of these threaten effects are those that do a whole bunch of thievery at once. Insurrection, Mutinous Massacre, Mob Rule. These will give you a ton of free sacrifice fodder and leave your opponents with nothing. Nothing! Of course, you don't have to just sacrifice your opponent's creatures. Chaos Control provides you with a few additional cards that are great food for your sack engines. Timeline Color, Undead Sprinter, and Bloodghast are all recursive threats that you can sacrifice again and again. Loyal Apprentice and Urbrask's Forge generate hasty tokens every turn that can be sacrificed after combat to draw you a card. We've also got some one-time sack fodder that makes up for their lack of recursion by providing some additional benefit either when they die or when they enter. No sacrifice fodder is complete without a sack outlet, of course. Whether these sacrifices are meant to fuel interaction or simply to draw even more cards than you'd get from Shadow's ability, Chaos Control has plenty of options for one-time sacrifice effects. The more reliable option for sacrificing your creatures, though, are those repeatable effects. These may provide you with pings for keeping your opponent's boards contained, card selection for smoothing out your draw, or mana to cast your spells with. Thanks to Shadow's card draw, you'll certainly have plenty of spells to cast all throughout the game. But let's shift over to the ability that gave this deck its name, Chaos Control. Spells you cast with artifact mana get split second. How do we do that? Well, there's a few different kinds of artifact mana in Chaos Control, all of which is perfectly suitable for granting your spells split second. The deck includes a number of artifact lands available to Rakdos colors, ranging from colorless to monocolor to dual lands. It's also got a few mana rocks, though maybe not as many as you might expect by reading Shadow's ability. Mana rocks are nice for giving spells split second, but they don't contribute to the game plan otherwise, and Chaos Control is not the kind of deck that wants to ramp just for the sake of ramp. No, the best way to get split second is not with mana rocks. The mana you get from both Ashnod's Altar and from treasure tokens are just as capable of meeting Chaos Control's standards for granting split second. Remember, you only need 1 mana from an artifact source to give your spell split second, so be mindful as you plan out your turn where each source of mana you use to cast your spells is coming from. If you don't need to give your spells split second, don't waste your treasures. Knuckles the Echidna, the other brooding loner foil to Sonic, is included alongside Shadow in Chaos Control. His treasure hunter ability is more than happy to apply any treasures you don't want to use toward Knuckles' alternate win condition. The game plan of Chaos Control might seem harsh, stealing opponents' stuff to sacrifice for your benefit, but here's the thing. If the table chooses to become your enemy, then you'll fight like you always have. That's all there is to it. Though Shadow might technically be more of an anti-hero than a villain, the commander of the last precon that I have for you today is certainly a real evildoer. Introducing Get a Load of This, a Grixis Robots deck helmed by Dr. Eggman. Dr. Eggman is a 3/6 human scientist with flying for 2 generic and 1 of each Grixis mana. He only has 1 ability. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. Either they discard a card, or you may put a construct, a robot, or a vehicle from your hand onto the battlefield. Dr. Eggman's nefarious schemes generally rely on you having plenty of big big things to drop into play. Constructs have the most depth of the 3 card types listed on Eggman's ability, with plenty of options to choose from for big impressive creatures that are great to spend no mana on. Get a Load of This includes 4 different gear hulks, from the classics like Noxious and Combustible, to the recent 2-color editions of Coal Stoke and Oil Deep. But just because there are more big constructs than robots or vehicles to choose from in Magic, doesn't mean there aren't any of the latter, especially thanks to recent sets. Some of these big machines interact with your opponents, some grow your board, and some just draw you extra cards. Card draw is not in short supply in Get a Load of This. In addition to the machines that draw cards, there are one-off card draws like One with the Machine, as well as ones that draw cards when your creatures hit your opponents. To get the most out of Dr. Eggman, you really want your opponents to choose to give you free machines over discarding their own cards. Get a Load of This therefore includes a number of ways to force cards out of your opponent's hands so that if they want to play the game at all, they have to choose to give you free stuff. Oppression and Painful Quandary each strangle your opponent's resources each time they cast a spell. You may not be popular at the table, but what's the point of playing a villainous deck if you want to make friends? No true villain would be satisfied with just making their opponents discard cards. And Eggman is a true villain. Megrim, Wasteknot, Tiny Bones, and Geth's Grimoire all provide different additional benefits on top of the cards your opponents discard. Though there's no official plot in Sonic where Dr. Robotnik clones himself, there's some fan fiction, but it gets weird. I wouldn't put it past this evil scientist to be scheming up some clone technology in the lab. But seriously, the Magic the Gathering card, Dr. Eggman, has the kind of ability that you'd really love to get additional copies of if you can. You can do this either by cloning Dr. Eggman himself, by copying his ability when it goes on the stack, or simply by getting additional end steps wherein his ability will trigger again. Spark Double and Strionic Resonator both sound like inventions Robotnik would come up with. Ishola Rule? Well, no, the Final Fantasy character Ishola Rule would never be in a real version of a Dr. Eggman precon. That's not how copyright law works. But we're building our own, and Ishola's ability is so perfect for this deck. Extra end steps is great enough on its own, but even the blink effect is useful given how many great ETBs are present in Get a Load of This. Personally, I think a real Dr. Eggman precon would have come with a new card design that is functionally very similar to Ishola Rule. Therefore, I've decided to include Ishola in Tolarian Community College's Eggman Precon as a sort of stand-in for the design that WotC would have likely made if they've made this precon. But of course, WotC didn't make a precon for Dr. Eggman, nor any of the other Sonic the Hedgehog Magic the Gathering cards, which is why we made this video. And at Tolarian Community College, we don't need to worry about Universes Beyond related copyright law problems when designing our precons. Heck, throw in a Chaos Defiler in the deck too. That's a great construct card. Put a Spectacular Spider-Man in the Sonic Precon, he's got Flash. And granting Indestructible to the team is awesome, so you can really go to town with your mass pings. For the Shadow Precon, I don't know, Sephiroth? Yeah, let's include Sephiroth. If they're not going to give us precons, we'll make our own. And I don't have to worry about copyright law. I violate copyright law all the time on my channel, and everything I said was just a joke. We here at Tolarian Community College do respect copyright law. Please do not flag our content as being in violation of any copyright law. Thank you, FBI. I hope very much you like these Precon Commander deck designs that we've put together. You can help me out very much by watching another video, such as our love letter to banding, Magic the Gathering's first worst mechanic. Honestly, we put an enormous amount of time and care into this video in particular, and so I'd love it if you took a moment to give it a watch. And thank you once again to Archidekt for sponsoring this video. Their monthly deck building contest is going on right now, so you should go check it out because you could get $250 to buy Magic singles for the deck you design or whatever you need. If you're not already a member of Archidekt, the premier site for organizing your deck lists, playtesting with them, and keeping track of your collection, you can create a brand new account for free just by going to archidekt.com/Tolarian. Their current deck building contest is going on right now, and so maybe you can see one of your designs up in lights, as well as getting funding to get those cards in your hands just by signing up with Archidekt today. Thank you, Archidekt, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
What's up? It's Shuffle Up and Play, and today we have balanced our decks against a medium deck.
Mid? Do they call it? I think the kids call it mid.
But okay, f off.
Your deck was bonkers crazy powerful.
They replaced a couple cards.
And how many was that?
20? I have a really easy turn 1, a Gloom Lake Verge.
Draw for turn.
And then I'm gonna draw for turn.
This is what I assume your lives are usually like. As influencers.
You're an influencer.
You're an influencer.
I want to tell you this. That's what you do.
Death Cap Glade.
Is that a no cap? What's the, it's cap? Yeah, cap. Cap.
I want to attack, but I don't think anybody's naked. You got a 4/4 froggy.
Can't be naked.
I'm gonna say, is this a common vibe?
Sometimes I say things and I don't know why.